Hey there. Today I want to talk to you about building real-time DMs with Sails.js. And the reason I want to talk about this is there's a lot of examples out there about like how to build a chat that's like a group chat, like a chat room sort of thing. But I found that when we were working on a project that involved direct messaging last year, it was a little more complicated than the time I had built just like group chats in the past. So I thought that might be interesting to touch on. Um, so first, let me introduce myself. I'm Rachael McNeil, Rachel Shaw on GitHub. Um, Currently, I'm the lead maintainer of the Sails framework, and I'm also one of 3 developers at a startup called Cosell. And up until December of last year, I was the lead developer at Sailscasts, so I was leading a team doing development services for clients. And so before I get into kind of like the specifics of the DM feature that I wanted to kind of walk you through, I'll give you a quick tour of the project that I'm using as an example, just to give you a bit of context. So this project is called Stretch. I built it with a team of 5 back in spring 2020, and it's a platform for booking one-on-one yoga and Pilates classes. So it's got like a video, like sort of classroom, and it's got like booking for the classes, and then like sort of stuff for browsing the classes. But unfortunately, this app is incomplete because the client decided that they weren't going to pursue this business. But Stretch still has like a lot of cool stuff going on because we were kind of like building out an MVP that we intended to go to production eventually. So like, I mean, pieces of it are still pretty rough, but like there's also a lot of stuff that's like really well thought out, and it's also a good example of like how you can take the built-in like web app template in a sales app, and you can really make it your own, like customize your bootstrap theme and stuff like that. And yeah, so this app is made with the web app template, so option 1 when you generate a new sales app. And let me show you Stretch. So here's when you're logged out. It's kind of your basic sales app. You'll recognize pieces of it. There's the built-in login, forgot password. I believe, yeah, it uses the same contact form. Just slightly different bootstrap theme, slightly different layout. So Stretch. Some of the highlights of it, there's search. You can browse classes by category. They're paginated. You can sort these classes. And then, let's see. Here's an example of one of the detail pages for the classes. This is when you're logged out. I'll show you the logged in experience. So here's when you're logged in as the instructor. So that healthy alignment class, I'm able to edit the name, or edit the category, the name, change the description, all that good stuff. As you can see, this is incomplete. It doesn't have the class photo uploads or anything like that. And then here, I'm a student, but also this is an admin account, so it has a little thing to let me schedule a class real quick. And so when I'm looking at that same page as a student, I can't edit anything. I can book this class at a time slot that's available. There's just the Stripe test card. So, so that's Stretch. The piece that I want to show you today is this chat that comes up when you click Contact Instructor. You can also see this if you're viewing the instructor profile. So this little chat box here is a Vue component that we're using on a bunch of different pages, including this messages page. So just to demonstrate the chat box a little better, let me just put this all on one screen. Yeah. All right. So here I am as Bendy Berry on this side. That's the name of the instructor. We got it off of like a fruit snack package, I think. And here I am as Rachael McNeil. Oh, another thing I'll show you real quick. Can change your profile image. Crop it. So yeah, little rough around the edges. Oh, that one's too big apparently. Never mind. So it's a little rough around the edges, but there's some good stuff in here. But yeah, I'm gonna show you the chat. So I'm gonna send another message to Bendy Berry. And so as Bendy, I can go to my messages and you'll see when I respond, it pops up in here in real time and scrolls us down. So I'm going to hop into the code now and I'm going to show you kind of like how we set this up. And just a heads up, I'm not going to get like too deep into how to do this. I'm just going to give you kind of an overview, and hopefully if this is interesting to you, you can just kind of like use it as an example and take it and run with it and hopefully make it better. But yeah, so we've got 4 models involved to create these conversations. So we've got user. That's just the user model that comes with your Sails app. We didn't actually do anything special to it at all. There's no like new associations. All this stuff you see in here is just stuff we added for other pieces of the app. Then we've also got this chat model. So a chat record, it has this text content, which is just like the text in the message. We also kind of started setting up some stuff for sharing images, but as you can see, we don't really have that built in here yet. Because yeah, this was kind of the first version of this chat panel. You know, we didn't do anything with like grouping messages or uploads or anything like that. So it's still somewhat rough. So for our associations, we've got created by, so that links the chat to the user. So created by is a user, the user who sent the chat, and conversation is another model. So conversation, all it has is a collection of chats. So yeah, this one's pretty simple. Then the other thing, kind of linking it all together, is this thing called a conversation participation, which is kind of a mouthful, but that has a user and a conversation. So basically a conversation participation is like just kind of like the user's involvement in one of these conversations, which is just a group of chats. So I realize it's maybe a little confusing right now. I'll show you the chat panel a bit, and I'll show you the actions we're hitting, and hopefully that will like help kind of show how these link up together a bit better. So this thing right here is the chat panel. You know, because it closes and opens, it has, you pass in whether it's open, and then you pass in the logged in user, which is available on the page in our Sales locals as me. And then the counterpart, which is the user that you are chatting with. So, and these are just kind of some other optional things that have some defaults that we're not going to worry about right now. So, so this chat panel, this is our front end view component right here, and here in this little type a message box, that is our Ajax form. So this Ajax form component that comes with Sales apps, we're using that, and we are passing in an action create chat. So when this form is submitted, we hit the create chat action. So let me show you create chat. So when we create a chat, we're actually kind of doing a bunch of other stuff at the same time. You're passing in the text of the chat, and then you're also passing in the counterpart ID. So that's just the user that you're chatting with again. These other things we're not going to worry about right now. Those are just ways of connecting the chat to a specific class or a specific appointment. Those are optional. So when you create a chat, the first thing we do is we're making sure the counterpart actually exists, just to avoid, just like so we can show like a nicer error message, basically, if that's the case. Then same thing for the offering, which is just the type of the yoga or Pilates class. We're making sure that one exists if that was included. Same with the appointment if that was included. So just like basically doing some stuff to make sure we have nicer error messages if like something is wrong here. So further down, here's the meat of it. We're going to try and get this shared conversation ID, which may or may not exist, but this is a conversation record that that basically has like the chats between the logged in user and then the counterpart that we're chatting with. So we look up all of the logged in users' conversation IDs, and since this is an MVP, we were just kind of like are dumbly looking up all of them right now, but we're also throwing in an assertion. If there's more than 1,000, then like we're gonna throw an error right now. But yeah, since this is early on, this is an MVP. Nobody should have 1,000 different conversations, and really like if like somebody is chatting with 1,000 different people, that's like probably going to be pretty unusual behavior for like how we envision the app right now. So like we feel pretty safe doing this right now. You know, maybe it won't work long term, but it works for us right now, and for the foreseeable future. So so we're looking up the logged in users conversation participations. This LIUR thing, that's just shorthand for the logged in users. So then we find that, and then we grab the IDs of all of their. So from the conversation participation, we grab the IDs of all of the conversations from those conversation participation records. Then we do the exact same thing for their counterpart, so the user that they're sending a message to. And then finally, we find where the two of those overlap, so we find their shared conversation, which the way we're doing this, it'll bring up an array of IDs, but we just make sure there's only one. So if we find any of those, then we know they already have an existing conversation going, and we've already checked that there's only one of them, so we can just grab the first one of those IDs from the array. If they do not have an existing conversation going, then we're going to create one. So we just create this conversation record. It's just empty for now. We can fill it with chats later. And then we create these conversation participation records as well for both the user and their counterpart. And then lastly, we subscribe to the logged in user. This is going to allow us to watch for events on the user. So basically the chats, when a chat is created, is going to publish a chat, or it's going to publish a message saying that like we received a chat, and it's going to publish it to that user. So if you're subscribed to that user, then you will know about the message. So this is where we create the actual conversation or find our existing one. And then finally, we create the actual chat record that we're adding to that conversation. And lastly, we publish a message to any sockets subscribed to the user that's receiving the chat. And we have this verb received chat, and then we have the chat itself. And then we're sending back the chat record once it's created. So there's how the chat gets created, and that's what happens when you submit something here. The other thing that this chat panel is doing is it's fetching those initial chats. So like, see, I refresh the page, I click this, and it's got my chat history. It's not like it's just waiting for new chats to come in and not showing anything else. So there, it's nested in this Git Chats and scroll and focus, which is doing some front end stuff too. So here we call cloud.getchats. So this is using the Cloud SDK that's comes with the Sails app, and we're passing in the counterpart user ID. So we're passing in the ID of the user that we are sending a message to. So Git Chats. Let's take a look at that. All right, so here we see we're taking this counterpart ID. We make sure it exists once again just to show a nice error message if just like something is weird. Then we're doing the kind of the same thing we were doing before, where we're looking up the logged in users' conversation participations and then using that to get the user's conversation IDs. Same thing for their counterpart. And then once again checking for their overlapping conversation, so we know which conversation to fetch chats from. Then this list, recent chats, if there's no actual like conversation between these users yet, then recent chats is just empty, because we don't actually create a conversation between these two users until somebody has sent a message, because then like every time you land on an unstructured page, this component loads and it would create a conversation that doesn't need to exist yet. It only needs to exist if you're sending a chat. So we just send back we just make an empty one if you don't actually have a conversation yet. Otherwise, we fetch all of the chat, or not all of the chats. We fetch the chats from your existing conversation. We're limiting it to 200 just so that like it doesn't take forever to load. You can see we have here future pagination so that you could go to the top of your chat if you have more than 200 messages and click like load more. So we're getting 200 of them. We're sorting them by when they were created, and we're doing that descending so that we get the 200 most recent chats. But then we're reversing that so that it's in the order that we want it for this chat panel. And then we send them back down. So then in the chat panel, we've got those chats, and then that is setting this.chats on the chat panel. And so you can see in the HTML here, let's see, we're looping through chats in this v4, and then we're rendering all of them. All right, so there's that. And then the last piece, kind of pulling it all together, is we are calling this observe myself, which down here is calling cloud.observe myself. So we have this observe myself action. What that means, this like observe myself thing, that basically means we are listening for events on like myself, my user record, the logged in user. So that's all that means. And it's a really simple action. You look in here, we're just doing a quick check to make sure that this is a socket. It's a requesting socket, and we're not using HTTP for this. And then we call user.subscribe. And then, so we are subscribing to the logged in user. And then in here, in the chat panel, let me search for .on. There's a few of them. Here we have cloud.on. So part of the Cloud SDK thing is you can use cloud.on and then listen for events. So we're doing cloud.on user, and when we receive a message, then we're checking the message.verb, which back in create chat you see we're sending down this verb receive chat. So in the chat panel we're checking for receive chat. That's the only kind of verb that's being sent. You can see we have in the switch statement, the default is to just throw an error saying like, I don't recognize this. But if you received chat, then we first we check if it's created by the counterpart, because if it's created by you, we're just like tacking that on separately. We don't have to that's a message we're sending. We already know what it says. We're double checking that this was created by our counterpart. Or sorry, I kind of explained that wrong. So we're checking that this was created by the counterpart that we're viewing in the chat panel. So like if it's from a completely different user and we're not looking at our chat with that other user, then like it's not gonna put weird messages in our chat panel. This is making sure that this is one that we're specifically looking for while this chat window is open. Then, so if it was created by the counterpart we're watching for right now, then we just like append the chat on here. This is just another function that's in the chat panel, and I'm not going to get deep into the front end of this chat panel right now, but that just sticks the chat on here. And so So I think that's about it for these direct messages. Um, so like I said, I'm just kind of like I'm not getting too deep into it in this talk. I'm just kind of like giving you a tour, showing you like how we decided to implement it for this project, and hopefully if you're building something similar, this will help.